Hi, this is Francine Brown with FrancineBrown.com, and I'm actually here with Hans Johsnon. We're very blessed to have him here today. He has blessed both my family and I. I want to I started this show. I want to tell you a little bit about why I started this show. 6 years ago, my family and I were in a major car accident on the highway, and I wound up inadvertently getting an accidental Benadryl overdose from one of the medical facilities. It turned into me being in and out of the hospital for about a year, in and out of wheelchairs, using walkers. And I remember laying on my bed and I would hear story after story after story, not people overdosed on Benadryl, but just people that weren't well, right? And they were stuck in bed, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, there's no way I am not going to be stuck in bed, right? I was never spiritual, never really prayed. I always knew there was something there, but I prayed and I was like, God, if you can please help me, guide me, show me, whatever it is, like I will help other people. Like people don't have to be stuck. There's got to be a way. There's no way I'm staying like this. And so I did, and then I got a stage 3 breast cancer diagnosis after about 3 years of putting everything back together again. And I remember saying in the laundry room, God, how big do you want my story to be, right? And I'm here today, and I'm bringing it, and that's how this Thrive show got birthed. It got birthed because I want to show you all, anybody that feels that they're stuck. I don't care if you're sick. I don't care if you're broke. I don't care. Oh my gosh, your relationships suck. I don't really care. It doesn't have to stay that way. And today I'm bringing you someone that has made such a big, huge impact. Both him and his wife, Dani Johnston, have made such a huge impact in my life. And I really want to share with you a little bit about Hans. Hans Johnston is a CEO and co-founder of Call to Freedom International. He's a father of 5 and a husband to the incredible Dani Johnston. Hans started his first business at 8 years old in Kona, Hawaii, where he grew up, selling flower leis to tourists in order to buy groceries and school clothes. This experience helped form a strong desire to become financially independent at a very early age, starting other businesses as a teenager. At the age of 23, Hans and his unique approach to business were featured in Success magazine as a successful home business executive, earning multiple 6-figure income. Since then, Hans has grown many businesses, both online and offline, but most recently, he was a strategic co-founder and CEO behind Call to Freedom International, now Destiny Global LLC, which is doing business as DaniJohnston.com. It's a personal development company that equips people to succeed in all areas of their lives. Hans has generated millions of both online sales, traditional and non-traditional businesses, foreign and domestic real estate. He is also co-founder of King's Ransom Foundation, a nonprofit through which he and his wife, Dani, have passionately given away millions to orphanages and abused kids and women from all around the world. As creator of the True Wealth Formula wealth building system, Hans has helped thousands with his insights and step-by-step strategies. And Hans, thank you for that wealth building app, because it's changed our life. So Hans, I want to just hand it over to you and let you take it away today. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks, Francine. This is your show and your program. So I'm kind of, obviously, if you have questions or anything that you want to, hit on or expand on, first of all, thank you. This is great. This is going to be fun. I've been looking forward to it. So I think it's awesome that you're doing this, and your story is phenomenal. And it's very inspirational to go through that kind of an experience like you went through, and something that should have just been a normal thing, and a mistake was made. Somebody miscalculated, put the wrong digit or the wrong number, or whatever, and you got an overdose, and you got basically poisoned. And there's a lot of stories out there like that in the medical industry. I think over 300,000 deaths a year in that industry alone happen as a result of mistakes that are made, and wrong medications and things like that. And that feeling that you had, and that conviction and that drive to sit there and go, hell no, I am not going to stay stuck in this bed,
Mm-hmm.
And, when a lot of people do, and a lot of people go through life like that, they go through life essentially sort of with that victim mindset and that victim mentality and that victim identity. And when we take that on, or when we assume that identity, we basically will essentially will always gravitate towards an excuse, right? Or a reason why not. And we'll gravitate away from, taking personal responsibility and, basically just getting back up, and you got knocked down. You got a left hook, you got
big whale.
You got a knockout blow. Yeah. Actually it was where you got a sucker punch, and, you were down on the mat, but you didn't say, hey, you were like, no, I'm not staying here, and then you had another one, and you got up again. And, my life's been full of, events and crazy stuff from growing up on the streets in Hawaii. My mom was married and divorced 3 times. And so our family life, as a child, it was very unstable. I had more fathers in and out of my life than I could count, fathers. And, and so it was just, I roamed the streets as a kid. We were poor. We were growing up on food stamps, on welfare. And I had to learn really early on that if I didn't work, I didn't eat. And fortunately, I was, in an environment that I could go pick flowers after school as a little kid and make these flower necklaces and go down to walk down to the village and sell to the tourists. And, basically, I learned a lot from doing that, some amazing lessons as a young kid. But the big thing was, it kind of planted this idea in my mind that, hey, anything's possible. If you want to do something, just figure it out, and then so over the years, basically did different things. But the last time I worked for somebody else, I was 18 years out of high school. I was a commercial diver doing underwater construction and underwater maintenance. And then I met my wife, Danny, and we were in a business together that she went from living out of her car at $2.03 to her name to making $10,000 a month in 3 months. And that blew my mind. I was like, that's impossible. How do you do that? And so, over the years, built different businesses, had these different experiences. And, but, life hits you, it hits everybody, and, trauma happens, family trauma, health events, business events, being, stolen from, defrauded, car accidents, so life is full of variables that are just not in our control at all. We can, try to, figure out how to control it, but we really can't, there's a lot of uncertainty. And so we can talk a little bit about that today if you want, or talk about True Wealth Formula, or really basically anything.
Yeah.
Anything you want.
I think True Wealth Formula, it has it all in there. It's, and Hans, I remember I had gone to Danny's event. I had gone to 2 first steps to success. I don't know what my problem is with that word today, success events. And I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was like, oh my gosh, I realized that there's so much more to life, and it's simplicity, right? All I wanted was simplicity. I didn't want the complicated crap that I created, right? The complicated way I ran my house, right? I no longer, I started to realize that my relationship with my daughter was horrible. I was the rich, miserable, but I wasn't. I was the female dog, right? So,
an R&B.
Yeah, and I was just like, I didn't know. I knew there was more, and I was out of bed. Now, I was going to go get treatment in Mexico, and I had to raise money to get there. We didn't have the money for me to go for a $38,000 treatment. And I was like, oh my gosh, like normal people can't have this, but they really can. I got myself there to Mexico, right? Yeah. I had friends help me with fundraising, and it was amazing because it was in LA. Danny had the event in LA, And it was all of a sudden everybody was coming up for King's Ransom and donating money for the homes and all this stuff, right? Building homes. And I mean, it was like crazy. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, she just raised like $5 million, you know? And I'm like, I need $38,000 to help my immune system, right? To give me that edge up. I'm like, okay. It was the first time since my diagnosis I stopped crying. So, but my point is that I was so hungry to leave a legacy for my family, and not just a legacy, a financial legacy, but everything with the relationships and everything. And I found other people that were a part of your group. And I remember I kept emailing and kept emailing and kept emailing to get into the True Wealth Formula. And I think I sent like 15 emails to be able to get in, you know, but I wanted it so bad. And while I went through treatment, I applied everything that you taught, you know, and I want people to have that. I really do. I want people to see that and apply it, because it's huge, Hans. So I would love if you could talk about True Wealth Formula.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, you kind of hit on something that's really important, you know, is, well, kind of back up a little bit. So, going through life as a business owner and an entrepreneur, you sort of, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about you get knocked down, you get back up, you get knocked down, you get back up. So you develop sort of this, you know, kind of this driver type A personality that, you know, no matter how hard, you're just not going to quit. Right. And, you know, anybody who's achieving something, this is, you know, would be a common characteristic, very common amongst entrepreneurial types, as well as, you know, people who work hard and, you know, have drive and, you know, some type of motivation, right? And achieve something, you know, could be a student in school, could be an employee of a company, it could be a small business owner, it could be whatever. And so this was me. I had spent years doing product development and marketing and, you know, all kinds of stuff, like anything and everything, right? And including speaking in front of people, which I never liked, is always terrifying as could be. And so, but along the way, right? And you building a successful business and, you know, millions and millions and millions of dollars and doing all this. There's other things, other parts of your life concerning the finances, concerning not just investing, but how money is managed, right? And this aspect of our lives. And what this journey for me started like many years ago, more than 2 decades now. It started when I was a kid in Hawaii. My first wealth mentor had, when I was a kid, he was my martial arts instructor. You know, growing up in Hawaii as you know, it is a very multiracial culture, and it was an easy place to grow up. And so when I was a kid, and plus coming from a dysfunctional, you know, screwed up family life, so it gave me some stability and something to focus on. But he was amazing. I didn't know it at the time, but he was a multimillionaire in real estate. And he said something, again, when I was a teenager, I didn't really, you know, I thought about it. I thought, wow, and it stuck. It planted a seed. And that seed took a lot of years to really kind of germinate. And what he said was that the key to wealth is to get your money working for you instead of you working for your money. Mm-hmm. And so this became sort of the bedrock principle or concept behind True Wealth Formula. And through many, many years of journaling and experimenting and observing, studying, researching, looking at my own actions with regards to money, it became sort of apparent over time that there's essentially that there's sort of like the skill that it takes to manage money is the exact opposite skill that it takes to make it. And even worse than that, that skill that we have that helps us earn money actually helps us lose money.
Yes.
So I can expand on that a little further, but I did want to touch on something that you said, because, you know, we talk about money and True Wealth Formula. It's a you know, I call it a master money management strategy, right? Money management and investing strategy. And, you know, so we do talk about the aspects of managing money. But it's important to say that the reason why it's called True Wealth Formula is because we need to define what true wealth is in our life. And it's very easy in our culture and our society to basically get in that grind of believing. And this is very very much a Western mindset of that more is better, that bigger is better. And I call this the rich miserable bastard, right? You kind of alluded to her earlier, because this was my story. This was my life of just, being so in the grinder and so in the pressure machine and constantly never taking a breath to just enjoy life, right? To be thankful, to just to be content. And because I was growing up in poverty and everything, I was just so used to, you gotta keep that. You can't, you can't back off. You got to keep that going, And so what true wealth, first and foremost, it comes from the heart, right? And you can really look at wealth as, or true wealth anyway, as relationships and resources. But the thing is that if we get that, there has to be a priority there. And, a lot of people have heard that, you can serve money or you can serve God, but you can't serve both. And that gets twisted and mixed up, and people get confused by it. But it doesn't mean that money's evil. What it means is that we have to prioritize. There has to be a priority. And the message, the consistent message, and this is the thing about TWF, is that it's a pattern recognition system, basically. And so once, and there's different parts to TWF. There's the financial to invest and to do all that and to build our legacy. But then there's also the philosophy, right? And sort of this esoteric aspect of it. And they both kind of fit into each other, but it's a pattern recognition system. And a common pattern that you'll see is that is this admonishment to prioritize relationships above wealth or above money, right? And this is a common thing. I'll share this quick study that was done, and then we can get more into maybe some more practical stuff. But there was a study that was done with all these people that were heading into retirement, and they asked them, what's the number one thing that you're worried about? What are you concerned about, right? And across the board, the number one answer was money, right? Running out of money, not having enough money in retirement. That was their biggest worry and fear and concern. Then they followed up with these same people within a couple years after they retired, and they asked them the same question. What's your number one biggest concern? Mm-hmm. Across the board, it wasn't money anymore. It was loneliness, right? So what that means is that, and this is the case with all human nature, all humanity is this way, is that we will expand or contract unequivocally 100% in every single case and circumstance to whatever our environment is. Absolutely, we will. We may not like it. Like if you say, people will say, well, if I can just double my income, then I'll be happy and all my problems will be solved. No, they won't. It's only temporary. Yeah. Your problems will be solved, but then you'll have new problems. You go from 50,000 a year to 100, 100,000 to 200, 200 to 400. If I could just make $1 million, I'll have no problems and I'll be happy. No, you won't. I promise, right? So what happens now? There is a point where but what another study was done. They found that at about $75,000 a year, your core needs are met. Right now, this is going to vary depending on what city a person lives in and that sort of thing. But the main thing is that there's a lesson there, and people always come at the money angle or the wealth angle or investing from the angle of more, bigger is better. And TWF kind of hits it from a different angle first, and it's an angle of really digging down to bedrock and dealing with some underlying kind of mindset issues, right? Mm-hmm. Dealing with human nature, dealing with the heart issues, and reprogramming those programs that are embedded in here. Because if we can get that straight, then we can start building that foundation. And when we start building that foundation, then we can actually experience compound momentum growth in our wealth building, not just financial, but in the wealth and in the relationships and those things as well. So, but yeah, these people, 2 years after retirement, they figured it out. They figured out how to live off of whatever it was they had. They figured it out, and we will always figure it out, and then it was not money anymore. It was loneliness, right? So that really underscores the priority, right? And that's the foundation. And then from there, once we understand that, then we can start to apply some other rules that we've developed over years, and is more and more now turning into an algorithm through the app and some of the stuff that we're working on through the Wealth Builder app.
Love that app.
Huh?
I love that app. Love those calculators.
Thank you. Yes, I love it too. It's been a crazy project, and as you know, we're working on a new app and some cool new things, and this is the entrepreneur side of me, just was like, come on, just do it, get it done, I want it done now, today, and I have to balance that with what I've learned as an investor, is that patience and attention to detail and really sort of kind of like that diligence and that temperament is really, really what's important, so.
It's definitely, I learned a lot. I learned a lot through some of those modules. I learned a lot of where my head was.
Yeah. I mean, the first, so just kind of to back up a little bit, so I learned this idea from Damien when I was young. The key to wealth is to get your money working for you instead of you working for your money. And if you look at that statement and this to me, and I, over decades there's so much financial garbage out there. There's so much information, right? And it's a cluster fest. I mean, it's really, and it's worse than that. It's a racket. And I'll try not to get off on a rant on that, but what makes it so bad is that it's just massive TMI, too much information, right? Too much damn information. I mean, like you can get 10 experts, and these are all PhDs, the smartest people in the world, right? And you'll get 10 different answers. You sit down with 10 accountants and you're going to get different answers. 10 attorneys, you're going to get different answers, right? And so what ends up happening is, and this is me, this is my story, and this is the evolution and the development of TWF. What happens is you just get more and more confused. So the more information you get, and the more you study, and the more you learn, and the more people you listen to, and the more ads you respond to, and the more feeds you look at, and the more newspaper articles and headlines, and the more podcasts you listen to, and the more you read, and the more you see, the more confused you get. Yep. And for me, I said, God, there's got to be, like, this sucks, right? How, and if you think about this, and the people that are listening, I want you to think about it. Like, think about this. You worked your entire life, right, and to try to save some money, right, or to do better, to be responsible, to manage your affairs and your resources in a responsible way. And then you have to sit there and rely on somebody else to tell you what the hell to do with your hard-earned money, right? Like, that's messed up. That the system and the culture we live in is so complicated, right? And it's so convoluted that we can't, at a very core, understand money management and do good at it, as well as investing. That and that's not taught in schools. That's a crime, in my opinion. Okay, and I tell people often, like, the tuition I've had to pay to learn what I've had to learn, and for TWF to be what it is today is huge, right? Like, it's massive, But if you look at that statement, and so for me, for whatever reason, I've always sort of been this person that kind of looks at things and goes, okay, what's the pattern? What's consistent? Because if you can step back and you can look at what's the consistent law, or what's the consistent truth, or what's the consistent pattern that's repeating, not just today, but over the course of time, then you can start to build a foundation. You can't build a foundation on something that's changing every single day, or every month, or every year, or even every decade, and so I really started to look at patterns and instead of getting all focused on all the minutiae and the detail, I said, so what's the higher law? What's the pattern here? And so just looking at this statement, the key to wealth is get your money working for you instead of you working for your money. It's kind of a riddle. It's like, oh, cool, that sounds good. That makes sense. You can write it down. Oh, great. I know the key to wealth. Yes. And then you go, Then you go, but how the hell do I do this? Now what? It sounds so simple. And I found that to be the case with all the big wealth books and all the big wealth gurus and all the stuff that is out there. It's like, okay, that sounds simple, but there's no system here, And so the more I looked at my own results across a lot of different investing situations, the more I looked at my journaling, the more I looked at successful, wealthy people that I knew, the more the research that I did, the studying I did, I started to find some common patterns, basically. And the common pattern, okay, and this is what TWF is built on. The common pattern is that the wealthy, okay, first of all, they have a base of cash flow assets, okay. Now we need to define what that is, because most people don't even know how to define that. Right? Most people don't even know how to define what is or is not an investment. And about 99% of what people see, hear, and read, and where their assets are, or what they think is investing, is not investing. It's actually speculating. And so we break that down and make that really clear so that people can basically know, right? And you can tell when you're being advertised to, is this really an investment or is this a speculation? So number one is the wealthy have a base of cash flow assets. Now that might be a high paying job or a salary. That might be, now what would that be? That would be the money that you work for. So there's two types of income. There's the money you work for and the money that works for you. The money that we work for is what we call our earned income. Okay. The money that works for us is what we call our unearned income. And so the key is to build that unearned income so that we can have freedom. Okay. But the wealthy, this is the common pattern. Number one, they have a base of cash flow assets that could be that could be an operating business, some kind of a business that's successful and producing cash flow. It could be real estate, right? That is there. It could be all kinds of things. Stocks, bonds, could be different things. But they have a base of cash flow assets. Okay. Number two, they use what we call non-discretionary rules-based systems. Okay. And then number three, they speculate strategically. Okay. So we can break that down if you want, and we can kind of flush that out. But that was the pattern, more or less, that they have a base of cash flow assets. Okay. That they use non-discretionary rules-based systems, right? And that then they speculate, because when you don't, first of all, you have to be able to know what's the difference between a speculation and an actual investment. But when you don't need the money, that's when you can speculate. So what I started to do is I started looking at this. Okay, well, how can we develop? What are some rules? And it was just through a period of time and a lot of research and journaling and thinking and praying. And the ratios started to pop up. And so that's how TWF basically developed and was evolved, and it's still evolving. And actually it's in an evolutionary state right now because of the different clients that we have that are using it and applying it. And then we're getting that feedback and kind of looping it back in and tweaking it and stuff like that. But it's really a journey of personal development and internal growth, but then using money as that barometer, because there's nothing that will challenge who we are as much as our money, how we manage our money, right? I mean, like it will really get into it, and what money actually represents psychologically and what it is. It'll really challenge us in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I just want to say though that some of your discretionary rules and stuff that you have in there, and today, as a matter of fact, I got something in the mail from one of those marketing machines, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, oh that sounds really, and like it started getting me going, and then I was like, oh geez, and I ripped it up, and I'm like, they're just selling me something, and I just, so yeah, like by listening to you and plugging in to the True Wealth Formula, and that the Wealth Builder app, you're constantly in my head now. Why are you spending that? What is the real reason that you're picking that up right now? And I'll put it down, even in the grocery store, and I'm like, okay, put it back. So thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. It's funny because, one of the first things that so there's a couple of core concepts, right? And like I said, what we like to do is deal with that mental part first. Mm-hmm. So one of the first concepts is to accept a fact or truth or this what we call like a TWF principle or a law, is that no one will do for you what you won't do for yourself. Nobody's going to do for me, but what I'm not willing to do for myself. And this is like the first, sledgehammer. Okay. Because if I can't accept that, okay, because otherwise now I'm going to go through life. And it took me a long time to fully, and that phrase and that truth can take on a lot of different, it can continue to work on us. But, for years as a CEO and an entrepreneur, I was like, hey, I'm a marketer, I'm a product developer, and you're taught as a business person, hey, you can't do everything yourself. You need to hire good people and advisors and trust them. So that's what I did. And we had accountants and CPAs and attorneys and stuff like that. And I would sit down with an accountant or a CPA, and as soon as we'd be talking about taxes or the books or the financial reports, and within 10 minutes, man, I was just like, God, get me out of here, right? And I was like, oh man, And I didn't go to college, didn't have any formal education, nothing like that. So I was just like, okay, well, these guys are professionals. And so, but I had to learn through some really tough lessons and some a lot of different crazy stuff that happened, that, this really is a truth. Nobody's going to do for me what I'm not willing to do for myself. I have to take responsibility. I have to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
And really embrace that. And so once I accepted that, then it got me thinking. I was like, okay, well, now how do I simplify it? There's got to be a simpler way. This stuff has been overcomplicated. And so that's a lot of what's driven, TWF. The next concept or principle that's foundational is that true wealth is created through production, not consumption. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to economists and you listen to politicians and you listen to you look at your news feed and everything like that, it's all about the consumer, right? And you would think that, and the consumer is a big part of the economy, but it's not. It's what fuels it, because they're spending, Right. And so the hint in all of that is hey, how do I move myself out of number one, you shouldn't identify yourself as a consumer. We need to identify ourselves as a producer, And so that's a mindset issue, and it deals with consumption. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about this idea that bigger is better, more is more, right? And we have this idea in the West that is the key to happiness, and it's not. It's just an empty black hole. But once we can get to that point, we say, no, less is actually more, right? Less is better. Simplicity is better. And so then we can start to really deal with this problem, because it's not even consciously we can even know this stuff, and we can be talking and somebody can hear it. They can go, yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that. But that doesn't mean anything. It's really the subconscious animal that we got to deal with. And that's where the non-discretionary rules come in, and some of the reprogramming, educational training that we do, right? Because since we were born, several years ago, there was a study that said that the average person is exposed to 10,000 marketing messages a day. I'm quite certain that that's way more now with all the social media and all the other forms of media. So since we were born, we have basically been programmed, and the predominant messaging nonstop 24/7 has been to be a spender, to be a consumer, right? And to go into debt. And so we live in this debt-based, consumption-based economy and society and culture that constantly is validating us, giving us validation. Yep. If we drive a nicer car, live in a fancier house, right? Wear nicer clothes, all this sort of thing. And so we can, in our mind, we can, learn this stuff. We can read books, right? But then we say, well, why do I keep doing the same thing? If I know this stuff, why am I not doing it? And why do I do it once in a while and then I forget and I fail, or I do it for a little while and then I slip back and I backslide into this pattern of going back into debt, of, consuming and doing this? What's going on here? And what's going on there is that we're not actually the one in the driver's seat. You know, it's our subconscious mind that's sitting in the back seat, but he's back there doing this. You know, he's actually it's real subtle. Just got a little finger on it, and he lets us, you know, keep our hands on the wheel and think that we're the ones driving, but he's actually back there, you know, doing this, you know. And so we
it's constant. It doesn't stop. It's constant.
It's constant.
Yep.
And so the key, so we make, especially with our money is a fear gauge, and we make money decisions emotionally. We can have all the plans in the world. We can have all the good ideas. We can think that we have plans. Now, there's a small percentage of the population, a small group or a subset that has a certain type of personality / temperament / even psychological profile that this may not apply to. They're very diligent, very good with money, very disciplined, and they're but that's a very it's less than 1%. And so for the majority of us, that's not us, you know. And if you grew up in anything in a family environment where you weren't groomed and trained for wealth, then you're going to be fighting that, what I call the 800-pound gorilla. So in TWF, what we do is we have this whole series of basically the millionaire mindset, right? And really that what I call a reprogramming sequence of breaking those belief systems down and those things that we think about money and consumption, and then we start building from the foundation. And I like to talk about this. I like to say that, you know, do you want an investing tip or a wealth system? Most people want an investing tip. You know, they get an ad in their, you know, in their news feed, or, you know, hear an ad on the radio or something like that, and it's advertising some kind of, you know, hey, do this or do that, or, you know, advertising real estate, advertising stock market, gold. You know, you hear this ad on the radio, you got to do gold, blah, 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 you know, or you get an email in your inbox, oh, don't miss on this investment, da, da, da. All of that is what is the tip of the iceberg. It's an investing tip. And an investment tip will never make you successful. And 99% of the time, those same people aren't going to be there. You know, that means that you're becoming dependent and reliant on somebody to tell you what to do, when to do it. And that feeds into our human nature because we have a question, we want someone to answer it for us. And so what I started to do with TWA, I said, no, there's something below the surface here that the elite investors and wealth builders know that the masses don't know and don't understand. And there's a foundation below that iceberg that's below the water that you don't see. And if you don't learn that, you're gonna hit that iceberg. And when you're gonna implode. And I know several people personally, you know, over the years. I know some people that became multi-millionaires, and because they were involved in a market that was trending up, and they were, you know, just doing really well. And the natural inclination is, if something's working, do more, you know. And they didn't have an actual system. They didn't have any risk management. And what they did was they levered up, and they got totally wiped out, because every market booms and busts. Every single market rises and falls. And when a market's going up, we can think that we're real smart, you know. And so we think we're smart, so we go, oh, I've got this down now. We do more of that. And so that's another aspect of TWF, but it works through all of that. And then we start to build out these rules and these systems about how to manage our earned income through a set of percentages and rules, and how to manage our money that we're earning, so that we take it off the table. You know, there's a saying that says that, you know, and it's a gambling saying, that the house always wins. And what that means is, if you go into a casino, let's say you're in Las Vegas, you go in a casino and you have a couple winning hands, you think, man, I'm doing awesome, you know. And you know, so you're hot, you know. Everybody's, you know, oh man, I'm doing good, you know. And you're a big roller now, you know. And so you keep going more and more and more. And as long as you're still playing, that casino will have no problems at all, because their algorithms are designed and set up that they will 100% of the time always end up winning. You know, when they have a problem is when you start taking your chips off the table and putting them in your pocket or your bag. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's when security will start coming around. That's when they'll start watching. That's when they start to say, okay, what's up? You know, because now that means that you're actually taking money off the table, right? You're actually, and so we do that. We have these rules and these systems in TWF that help us do that with our money and segregate it into separate accounts that are pre-designated. And essentially it's all about, it's all about flipping the tables and us becoming master over our money, right? And there's a sequence that we do in order to make that happen, so that we truly are the master, so that we are telling our money what its purpose is, what its reason for existence is, where it's going to go, what it's for, and we set these rules up and we take that money off the table, so that the house, in this case, it's our subconscious mind, which is working as a conspiracy against us, in cahoots with the world, all with the system, the culture, all the advertising, everything. And it's lurking in the background all the time. And it's sitting there for us for that ripe, opportune moment, just saying, hey, you got all this money sitting there. Why don't you go buy a new car? Or why don't you go do this? Or go that, you know, you got this credit card, do that. So the rules help us with that. We get those rules set up and we start to essentially build a wealth account. And we start to allocate that capital. And then we have another set of rules for how we manage the capital, and then another set of rules for how we manage the individual investments that are made, and how to designate between a speculation and an investment, so that we're not over allocated in our speculations. Most people are, you know, they have their assets totally wrapped up in speculative stuff, you know. And anytime you have an investment where it's contingent on the price being higher when you sell it than when you bought it, that's a speculation, because we don't have any control over the price. You know, we have no control over that. And so then basically what we're doing is we're saying, well, I hope that someday it does better, you know, that it's worth more. Well, you know, look at, you know, the 2000s was known as the lost decade for the real estate market, right? You know, two huge market crashes. You know, if you're going into retirement and that happens, and now your portfolio is cut in half, you know, and you followed you did all the right things. You know, you did modern portfolio financial planning and you did what all the experts said, you know, and now it gets cut in half. You say, well, God, I just need to wait. It'll come back, you know, and I'll work a little longer, or I'll do this, right? And so you delay your retirement, or you do whatever, and you say, well, okay, it's starting to come back, and then it gets cut in half again, right? Like that's no fun. So you know, in TWF, we find that as a general rule of thumb, most people totally debt free in 5 to 7 years, and then building that momentum, where that wealth machine in 10 years, between 10 and 20, hitting their freedom number, hitting their lifestyle number, right? And just getting that compound wealth building machine going to where you're not working for money anymore. Money's working for you. Now that doesn't mean you don't work, right? That just changes. It flips the tables again. You know, it changes it. And the reason why I work is not for money. I'm working. I enjoy what I do. I'm contributing. I'm creating value to society. It's productive, right? It's fulfilling, right? It's creative, whatever the reason is. I'm helping people. But I don't have to work for money, you know? And so that's the whole idea, is that we don't need to be caught in this rat race and in this racket and of this system, which, by the way, is totally outdated. It's an outdated industrial age system. So TWF uses rules and principles that have stood through the test of time through millennia, not through just one era of you know, the industrial age where they had, you know, worked for 40 years and, you know, do this pension plan thing, and then, you know, that type of thing. So it's been fun. It's a blast. It's a challenge. And it's so exciting all the time to get testimonials from people like you and others, you know, just like, man, across the board, debt free, totally able to, just like what you just said, you know, man, I can see the matrix now. I can see these advertisements. I can see all this stuff that's going on, and you know, not get hoodwinked by it anymore. And oh my God. So I get people, they're like, oh my God, I'm starting to see the patterns. Freaking me out.
It's like, oh, well, this could really work out. And then, your brain just starts going, and then you're like, no. And then I have your voice going, Francine, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, no, and then I'm like, okay, no, can't have it. Now Gerald, my husband, he's like, Francine, we don't need that shit. Okay.
Awesome. Yes.
So it's good, and even our daughter, she'll be like, she left for college. She got herself a full ride, but she said, wow, she's leaving, and she goes, hey, Mom, so, hey, at her school, they have like a big kind of stock market thing, and they've built it up to where it's real money, and it's $1 million. They have it up to $1 million, and they're trading the money, like they're responsible for this money. Yeah. So my daughter's like, Mom, so would that be a cash flow asset or a speculation? And I said, well, are you guys trading in the hopes that the price would go up? And she goes, yeah. And she goes, okay, yeah, it's a speculation. Yeah. Yeah. And she's 17 years old, but man, if I had this information 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and just plugging in and letting your family see this stuff, it's life changing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's an awesome story. And there's nothing wrong with speculation. The problem is when everything we have is in a speculation and we think it's an investment and we don't know how to differentiate between the two, but man, congratulations on that with her. And yeah, I mean, we get testimonials and people sending in, videos and photographs of them sitting down, working through the course and the program with their kids, and, their kids learning it and stuff. And I'm like, it's funny. I look at it and I go, I'm jealous. I wish I could have done that when I was a kid too, but, yeah. But it's been really exciting and really good. And just neat to see people again, different people have different challenges. Sometimes it's the consumption side of things. Typically we kind of break it into two parts. Right now we have the implementation program, as you know, that people can basically get registered for. And the way we do it is through an annual subscription. And I made a decision, recently. I said, I don't want to build a business that's dependent on coming up with some new product all the time and selling something, new, because that's business. You got to sell, you got to do product development. You got to identify needs in the marketplace and come up with a solution and do all that. And I thought, I want to do something that my energy can improve what's already there, that we can keep, and I looked back and I said, have I ever created anything that I feel like couldn't have been improved on? And I was like, no. Well, why don't we go back and do that? I was like, well, no, what, so I just started to think about it and thought about, restructuring the model, and said, nah, this is, let's just make this an annual subscription. Let's provide the training program and put together an implementation program. So we have the training and then we have the actual implementation, which is the action items. And it's been awesome seeing people work through that, because it's really specific. And once you get that core system set up, then it's just managing that part, and then the investing side, that's a long-term, learning process. And we do our monthly, do live, Q&A, sessions for people. And then I have another group that I work with more closely, as a monthly group that you're in, where we get on the phone, we hash stuff out and, access through text, if there's a question that comes up or that sort of thing. But I really like this model a lot because one of the changes that I made in my life was reprioritizing some things, again, towards relationships. And I think that the subscription model and what we're doing and with the Wealth Builder app and some of the things we're going to be doing in the future, it helps align the business with that. The business model with that, because I'd much rather be working closely with a smaller amount of people in a long-term relationship in this journey than be in some kind of a transactional sell type business model. And so I think that, so for me, it's just been, it's been awesome. And, some of the things that we're doing with the app that we're working on coming out with, I'm not and this is the other thing that's important too. I'm not a certified financial planner or anything like that. This is I'm a private business owner and investor. And so we do this as it's sort of kind of like me just saying, hey, here's what I do. Here's my system, right? And sharing that with people.
That has a couple of advantages. Number one, I'm never going to sell anybody an investment.
Yeah.
You know, my sales model is really basic, right? It's just like, download the app at the Apple
App Store or Google Play. Go to truewealthformula.com, sign up. We have a special right now for the truewealthformula.com implementation program at truewealthformula.com/special offer if somebody wants to find out about that. But it's a simple model, and it allows us to focus our energy on continual improvement and continual long-term relationship with people versus being in some kind of a model where I'm pitching investment to people. And that's the reality. I kind of make fun of it. I say, certified financial product salespeople, because if you go and you talk to an insurance person, they're going to, you say, well, they're going to sell you insurance. You talk to a real estate person, their business model is selling real estate. You talk to a stockbroker, their business model is selling stocks, across the board. And what I also found because of the way business is that even with these, gurus, they'll be partnering with people in the background where on the front end, they're providing education, but on the background, they got some kind of a partnering relationship because naturally people go, okay, well, what do I do? And so then they're, getting back in, stuff from that, which is fine. But for me, I just said, no, I don't want to be involved in any of that. And so a lot of the focus is helping people to really think for themselves, right?
Thank you.
And to take those questions and go, okay, well, how does that apply? And how do I process that through the formula? And then what answer does that give me? And so it's really about empowering and about, basically, helping people be in that driver's seat. It doesn't mean that we're going to know every answer to every question. I always say that our goal is to get people to about 80%, to where you can do 80% of, you should be able to manage 80% of your own stuff,
Yeah.
There's going to be some specific things, tax planning and legal and estate planning and things like that. You want to sit down with a specialist or an expert on that. But we need to be able to know how to manage our own money. And we need to know what is it that the elite do that we're blocked out of. What is that knowledge, right? What is that system and that knowledge that they have and that they have used for centuries that they have used? You have wealthy families that have basically compounded wealth over generations and generations and generations and generations. And then you have everybody else that's just resetting. We're constantly resetting. And we reset through consumption. We reset through debt. We reset through taxes, right? We get taxed again when we die, right? And we reset through the advice that we're given. This advice that says, hey, just save up money and hope you don't run out of money before you die.
Yep.
So it's just a constant resetting. And so one of my passions and beliefs is that if more people could learn this, then we could have that multi-generational wealth. We can build, not just money and not just resources, because if we don't have the internal, if we don't have the internal game, none of that is going to mean anything. But we should be able to have that too, and so that's a passion of mine. We want to help 1 million families through the Wealth Builder app. And just help them master this game, man. Don't be a damn slave to money. That's just crap, get that thing in line,
That's great. Thank you to both you and Danny. Like, seriously, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And to everybody else, I just want to tell you, download that app, man. It's you can even access it from a browser, right? It's just wealthbuilder.io. You can get it from wealthbuilder.io or Play Store. It's the Wealth Builder app, and then iTunes. Not iTunes. What's it called? The iStore. What's it called?
iTunes or the App Store. Apple App Store.
The App Store. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not up on the Apple terminology.
I know. It's crazy. I've been I've been working with the programmers, and we're developing the next version, and we're going to do some neat, cool stuff with it. I'm super pumped and excited about it. But I really appreciate being able to do this with you today, Francine, and I appreciate what you're doing with your mission of helping people overcome and live a toxic-free life, and get out of the poisoning that is out there in so many places.
It's everything, right? It's your mind, it's your finances, it's everything, man. It's everything.
It's brutal.
And you bring that crap into your family.
Yeah.
So, no more.
You're absolutely right.
No more. Thanks to you and Danny. Seriously, thank you guys so much. You have blessed us so much, and thank you.
You blessed us too anytime, and thank you for this, and we'll do it again sometime.
All right, cool. Thanks, Hans.
Bye.